Hey, Dr. Chris Kawa from Discover Chiropractic here with you. Thank you very much for watching. I just want to go over a couple things that I think most people, well, I actually know most people are completely unaware of. And it's the question of why would you ever want to get regular chiropractic care? Only about 10 to 15%, according to polls, of the general population of the United States gets regular chiropractic adjustments. And, we have to talk first about what causes your spine to get misaligned. And when I say misaligned, I mean pulled out of position and stuck or fixated, okay? So these vertebrae here, they get pulled out of position by muscles attached to all these processes here. And when you're under stress, okay, any kind of stress could cause this. It could be posture stress, it could be physical stress, could be emotional tension or emotional challenges, could be even chemical stresses that cause organs to be stressed, and that causes a reflex that causes muscles to contract. So the muscles contract as a defense against stress, and they actually pull on the vertebrae and cause the vertebrae to lock out of their normal position and restrict the motion. Now, the interesting thing starts now. The interesting thing is, inside where these bones touch each other, there is a joint capsule right in here. That joint capsule is filled with little sensors, thousands of little sensors that are telling the brain what's going on. It's because the brain needs to know how the bone is aligned, how much it's moving, how much pressure's on it, where it is in space, and that's how the brain communicates with the joint. There's a neurology and a nerve pathway set up here with this track in your spinal cord called your spinal thalamic tract, and it tells the brain basically what's happening. So those sensors are really, really crucial. But when the spine gets misaligned and fixated, the spine's stuck, the joint is stuck, so the sensors stop relaying that message from the joint capsule inside the joint to the brain. So that message is stopped. So that's really important to understand, because the brain relies on this constant feedback of stimulus, and it sends back messages to the muscles to try to keep everything aligned and moving, and the biggest thing your brain wants to do is to protect these nerves. This red nerve is coming out from between the bones. Your brain's main function, as a matter of fact, a guy won a Nobel Prize in 1980, his name is Roger Sperry, and he figured out that your brain spends 90% of its energy at any given time trying to keep you in balance and keep your spine aligned and keep your nerve system free. So he won a Nobel Prize for that, because it's such an important concept. So now we have irritation to the sensors, the information not going to the brain, so your brain says, all right, I can't fix the problem, so we're just going to leave the joint stuck like that. But that causes a whole bunch of problems, because now the joints above and below the ones that are stuck are going to start moving too much. Guess what that does? That irritates the sensors in a way that you don't want, because that irritation goes to the brain. Your brain sends down messages to the muscles to go into spasm, and then there's an inflammatory process. That's why you could always palpate someone's spine and feel their spine. You're going to find 5, 6, 7, 10 tender points. Those tender points are areas where the brain is sending too much energy there because there's mechanical faults somewhere else. Okay? So you follow me so far? So I know it's complicated, but it's really crucial to understand that these sensors are crucial to the whole understanding of what's going on here. So the reason you'd ever want to get adjusted is to make sure that your spine is in its proper alignment and all the joints are moving properly, so that the sensors inside the joint can relay the proper messages back and forth from the brain. Okay? So that's why you want to do that, because ultimately that's going to allow the spine to protect the nerves. Remember, your spine and your skull, they're the coat of armor for the most delicate, most precious, most important things in your body, which is your nerve system, your brain, your spinal cord, and all your nerves. You need this coat of armor, and it needs to be functioning so that we can all move. All right? So when it's not functioning, the sensors get affected, and this whole process starts. And also, don't forget that there's this constant degeneration going on when the spine gets locked up, and that's how people get arthritis. All right, so the only other thing I want to relay to you today is that this nerve, most people think when that nerve gets interfered with that you're necessarily going to feel it. But that's usually not the problem. And I drew this little diagram here. I don't know if you could see it, but this is, let's say this is a cross section. We cut a nerve like this, and we're looking at it this way. About 40% of the fibers, this is like a fiber optic cable, about 40% of those fibers go to your organs. You know, they're going out to your heart, your liver, your lungs. They're animating your organs. They're making them function properly. About 50% are going to muscle. Okay, that's your motor system for movement. Only 10% of the fibers, of these fiber optic fibers inside the nerve, go to pain or sensory organs or sensory nerve cells. So only 10% of your nervous system feels pain. So you can have substantial interference to this nerve root and you might never even know it. Or it may take 10, 20 years for you to ever even feel anything from a misalignment in the spine. But all along, your muscles and your organs could be affected. That 40 and 50%, that 90% of the nerve can be affected, or parts of it can be affected without you ever know it. So the reason why your brain's constantly trying to make sure that your nerves are protected is because health is really about adaptation and the ability to adapt to these stresses. So another way to describe this, and I'll end with this, is that we all have this adaptation level where, and we all have a stress level. So if our adaptation level is here and our stress level's down here, then you're going to be able to deal with any stress that comes about. Any physical, posture, emotional, chemical, everything's fine. But that's really not the case with most people. We're all so stressed. We all have terrible posture. Life is just stressful. So we have all these insults on a daily basis that cause our stress level to be in here. And as soon as that stress level breaches or goes over the adaptation level, that's when you're going to have breakdown. That's when you're going to have dis-ease in the system. That's when you're going to have spinal misalignment. So chiropractic is all about raising this adaptation bar. When you keep your spine and your nervous system free and flowing perfectly, your adaptation goes up and up and up. Now, if your stress level's here, you could adapt to it. And that's what health is all about. It's all about adapting to stress. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch up with you next time.